Greetings. Let's talk about price elasticity of demand. Its shortcut is PED because price, elasticity, and demand are the three letters that abbreviate the three words. Now, what is it equal to? Well, it's an index that studies a relationship between the proportional change in price and quantity of the product. So, the quantity demanded, by the way. Here on this axis we will have price, and here we have quantity on the horizontal one. So on the horizontal one we have the quantity demanded of the product, and on the vertical one we have the price and then quantity demanded. Now we don't have to draw the demand and supply curves. It's not required right here. But let's say the initial quantity was 10, and it rose to, let's say, 11 units. Okay, and let's say the price went from 5 and it went up to 6. Okay, so the idea is that we will use this formula in order to find the exact index for the situation. We see that quantity rose from 10 to 11, and what this formula tells us is basically it's going to be equal to the fraction of the proportional change in quantity demanded. That means the change by how much the change was. The change is 10 to 11, that means 1 by 1 unit. How much is it proportional to the initial quantity? Very often it is explained through percentage signs, because in this case it rose from 10 to 11, and as I said, it is compared, the change is compared to the initial value. So if we compare it to the initial value, the change is 1, and that is 10% of the 10 of the initial value. In such case, it would be said that the percentage change in quantity demanded, which this thing is set in general to be, which it is 10%. And then in this case, you will have also some percentage change. But all these percentage changes do is they will get cancelled out with each other later anyway. And what we have to understand is we will just be doing the comparison of the change itself to the initial value, and the same will go for price. So to calculate this formula in this case, let's say we will use this exact example, is we will just fill it in. So what we're always doing is we have to indicate the change. The change is in this case 1, and the change in this case is also just 1. But we're not talking about the change itself. The ratio of these two changes would be 1 over 1, or fraction of these two changes would be 1 over 1. And the result will be again 1. But that is not the correct result for the PED. It's called price elasticity of demand, because it studies not the changes itself, but it changes the proportionality of the changes further compared to the initial value. So what we are doing here is, of course, we talk about the change. So change in quantity demanded, it is 1. But we have to compare it by dividing it by the initial value. So by 10. You will then rewrite this, let's say, by to 0.1, and that is that 10%. So you can call it 10%, or you might just as well leave it like this. Just realize that what we are really doing is, we are doing, and I can rewrite this once again in words, is the change in quantity demanded over initial quantity. Over the initial quantity. And this is the same thing, is the change in price over the initial price. That means that we are calculating this, of course, using the percent thing. Why? Because, of course, you can rewrite this as 10%. 1 over 10 is 10%. But it will mean the same thing, and you can just leave out the percent signs out. They will cancel anyway. And the index doesn't really contain percentage signs anyway. Now, what the denominator will contain is, we are going from 5 to 6 for the change in price, right? And the formula tells us, well, again, compare the actual change to the initial value. We're going from 5 to 6, okay? We're going this direction. We're not going down, we're going up. We could have also gone down, but we're going up from 5 to 6. So the change is 1. And now again, you have to compare it to the initial value. So the change is 1, but compare it divided by the initial value, which was 5. So the idea right here is basically do 0.1 over 0.2. This is the equivalent in decimal form, and it is like 1/2. Okay, so the result is 1/2, or you can say 0.5. And what this tells us is this is inelastic. To further explain why this is inelastic of a good, if you're studying a certain good, where its elasticity is given by this information that when the quantity rises from 10 to 11, the price goes from 5 to 6. It says basically that the good has PED, and that PED is, we just calculated it right with this example, it is equal to 0.5. Now, when the PED is between 0 and 1, it is inelastic. When it is above 1, it's elastic. And then there's other special cases, let's say, for example, when PED is equal to exactly 1, it is unit elastic because the percentage change or the proportionate change in quantity demanded and price was the same. Okay? And so on. And if it is 0, it basically says that there's no change in quantity for whatever price change. Okay, that means it's absolutely elastic. It's absolutely elastic. In such case, the curve will with high probability be very close to being absolutely a straight line, a horizontal line. But these cases don't really go on in real world. It's rarely the case. There's mostly cases that go very close to those cases, but it's not almost never exactly those cases. But just to end this up, what we did today, or in this video, is we talked about PED and how to calculate it using the formula, realizing that it's just the relationship or the fraction of the proportional change of quantity demanded and the proportional change of price. In both cases, proportionate to the initial values.